Hey, Pastor Josh here. We're reading Acts chapter 19, verses 29 through 34, and you and I need to avoid confusion. Oh, it is no good when people are confused, when people aren't able to pay attention to what is going on, when there is some sort of chaos around us. Confusion is not a good thing. Confusion oftentimes either breeds sin, it creates the environment in which sin can happen, or it hides sin and it's a result of sin and is meant to hide it and cause more sin to happen. Confusion is just not a good thing, and it is something we should avoid. In its nature, confusion is not sinful, because we could find ourselves in a spot where we are confused, where there's tension, where we're trying to understand things. So just because you're confused, of course, does not mean that you are sinning. But a state, an environment of confusion, a place where confusion is encouraged, it is not a good environment at all. Again, it's a place where sin can breed, or it's a place that sin, it's meant to actually cover up sin and actually to see it expedite, to see it grow exponentially in a great way. So we want to avoid confusion. So this is what's happened with these silversmiths. They have Demetrius has gathered together all the silversmiths that are making gizmos and gadgets and shrines and all kinds of things for this goddess Artemis in Ephesus, because they notice that their business is being threatened because people are becoming Christians and they're burning the things that are connected to this idol worship. And so they've gathered everybody together and they come into the theater. There's a great mob that is happening. And so this city was filled with confusion because they were saying, "Great is Artemis of the Ephesians. Great is Artemis of the Ephesians." And so they were filled with confusion. They rushed together in the theater, dragging with them Gaius and Aristarchus, Macedonians, who were Paul's companions in travel. So they're getting a hold of these people who are turning people to Jesus, and there's this great chaotic thing happening in the theater. But when Paul wished to go in among the crowd, he wanted to go in there to try to make things right, but the disciples would not let him, because if he would have went in there and it was pointed out, this is Paul, this is the one that has come and taught all these things, oh, he would have definitely, I would think, die at that moment. So the disciple says, "No, don't come in here, Paul." And even some of the Asiarchs, so these are the leaders in the region of Asia who were friends of his, sent to him and were urging him not to venture into the theater. "Please don't go in here, Paul," because Paul just, he thrives in these type of environments. He doesn't shy away from confrontation. He's ready to go in there and say, "Yeah, guys, you're right. The God that you worship is not a God at all. It was just made by hands, and you need to turn to the one and true living God." But all of these rulers that were his friends and the disciples were saying, "No, Paul, don't go in there. It's only going to be trouble for you and trouble for us." So here in the theater, some are crying out one thing and some another. It's a confusing place, for the assembly was in confusion, and most of them did not know why they had come together. They really didn't know that they had gathered together to protest the preaching of Jesus Christ. They didn't realize that Demetrius, the silversmith, was the one that got them all together. So some of the crowd prompted Alexander, whom the Jews had put forward, and Alexander, motioning with his hands, wanted to make a defense to the crowd and explain what had gone on. But when they recognized that he was a Jew, which would have been somebody that could be connected to Paul and the teachings about Jesus, they cried out for about 2 hours. They cried out with one voice, "Great is Artemis of the Ephesians." Just this rabid confusion. And ultimately, this confusion was being used to hide the sin of trying to squash the Christian gospel and elevate the worship of this false Greek god Artemis. So again, we as Christians need to avoid confusion. Make sure you're not promoting an environment of confusion. Be clear in what you think. Be clear in what you are putting forward. Do not mess around with confusion, because in confusion, environments of confusion are places where sin can breed and sin can be covered up. I pray that's been a blessing to you all. I'll see you in the next video.